medication when you're self-medicating, but you can only stay so long. Imagine my shock. Turns out I can't turn back the clock. I started really smoking when I was around 27 years old. Before that, I'd tried it a handful of times, but I was just like really not fun to be around when I was high. Like I was very stereotypical, can't string a sentence together, can't keep a thought straight smoker. Then one day I went to this influencer's birthday party, which means I went to like a sponsored event, and there was this guy, this vendor, who was just handing out weed cartridges. He was giving out one at a time, but for whatever reason, he gave me like 6, and then I was with somebody and they gave him 6 too. So then my friend comes over and then he leaves his behind. So all of a sudden I have 12 weed cartridges in my house, but I didn't smoke them for a really long time. So fast forward a little bit and I'm going through some stuff, you know, typical. And there were a couple nights where I started drinking alone. And right away, I was just like, nope, this is not gonna be me. This is not gonna be my life. I'd rather be a drug addict. So I started smoking by myself at night, and mostly I would just sit on my couch, put on a show, and draw or write. It was so easy to get kind of lost in the work, but I also want to say that it was not fun or enjoyable. I was always scared. I was super paranoid. Like every little sound freaked me out. I remember one night I was in bed and I saw a teddy bear laying on the ground, and I knew it was a teddy bear. For a fact, I knew it was a teddy bear, but for some reason inside I was just like, but what if it's a dead body? So a couple years in, this became a nightly routine for me. At this point, very much the unwind at the end of the day with a glass of wine type smoker. So then I move into my house and things got kind of dark and chaotic. For the first time in literally 6 years, I stopped posting. Like literally for 6 years from the week I started posting, I did not miss an upload. So I go a few weeks without uploading and somebody suggests that I do Vlogmas. So I'm like, okay, let me give this a try. So I try filming and it's kind of hard. Like it didn't feel natural. I was really uncomfortable and I was kind of out of the rhythm of doing it. Like I was on such a train for a minute that once it crashed, I was kind of scared to get back on. You know what I mean? So for the first time literally ever, I smoked before I filmed. Like I'd never filmed high before. Maybe once. Actually, definitely once. So I'm high. I'm talking out loud with nobody but myself, the camera, and God to hear what I'm saying. I was able to actually uncover my own thoughts. So like in therapy, for example, even though I was there in this, you know, judgment-free zone to talk about things, I just couldn't get there. I am a very, very, very socially anxious person. And I know that if you're watching this and you literally only know me from the internet, you probably, maybe not probably, but maybe might not guess that. I'm literally in a room by myself talking to an inanimate object. So even in this small room with a therapist, I was just like so high-strung and guarded that I couldn't actually get to the root of anything. But I would take a hit, I would turn on my camera, and then I would just start talking. And when no more words came out, I just stopped. And then I'd watch it back and I'd edit it. And it felt like I finally had someone I could trust to talk to. I'd watch myself pouring my heart out to myself, saying all the things out loud that I didn't even actually know that I was thinking because my thoughts were always racing so fast that I couldn't even grab a hold of them. I'd edit it, watch it back, and I would feel peace for a moment, like a genuine therapy session. I was able to stop masking. I was able to see myself without a mask. And I started genuinely falling in love with myself in a radical self-acceptance way. At this point, I'm like addicted to this feeling. Every night I can't wait to get high, film, edit. And then things started getting even darker around me. So I started smoking earlier and earlier until eventually I'm starting at 11 a.m. and staying high the rest of the day with no days off. I would just smoke by myself and cry and dance and paint and journal and cry and stretch and cry and work out and cry and make eggs and toast and cry. And then I started having heart issues. I would literally be sitting and my heart rate would jump to over 200 beats per minute with no physical activity. Like I'm literally sitting on the couch. I even at one point was wearing a heart monitor. This looks like I'm like really suffering and I'm literally not. I think that I just smoked too much weed. My skin was bad, my diet was bad, and frankly, I was weird. I was really weird. Like me, like baseline, I'm weird. Living in this alternate reality in my brain completely shut off from almost all social contact with nowhere to be and anybody to hold me accountable to doing anything. I was weird. So all that to say, things started off pretty innocently and spiraled. Weed transformed to this little thing I did to help me draw and paint and relax to being a crutch. Actually, crutch is such an understatement. It was just an absolute necessity for me. I'm recognizing this, and I battled myself for probably a year at least on whether or not I needed to quit. And it was the same cycle. I'd quit for a couple weeks, a few weeks even, a month, a couple months, and then I'd be like, you know what? Let me see how it feels to just smoke again. And then I'd smoke and I'd be like, wow, this is so good for me. It's just about balance and moderation. This time I'd have boundaries. I can only smoke, this many times a week and between this hour and only this much. And then I'd smoke again, and wow, I'm like, I need both sober me and high me. We gotta yin and yang. Like, this is a team. We gotta work together. And then before you know it, you get the point. And all the while, the spiritual battle keeps popping up. And before you're like, oh my gosh, a lot of people do look at weed as a spiritual tool. Like, especially if you're talking to like somebody who smokes a lot, especially if you're talking to somebody in California, they'll tell you that weed is a very spiritual experience. It really helps them connect. I'm gonna do an entire separate video for any Christians or non-Christians about sort of these common arguments or justifications or questions surrounding whether or not you should smoke, basically. So make sure to check that video out if you're having any type of like internal debate, and it might give you some insight, it might not, but it's at least worth having a conversation and listening to somebody else talk about it. And then I get served this video on YouTube from somebody who was explaining why they quit weed. And it was this girl saying all the things that I was saying about how it helps her connect spiritually, but then she realized that those things were all lies and she decided to put it down. And then another video pops up and this person said, I've been fighting myself over this for so long, and then I realized the fact that I'm having this internal battle is a testament that inside my spirit knows that this is not actually good for me and that it's keeping me from something. All of these people felt the same thing I did. Like, it's spiritual, it's medicinal, it's good for you, it's natural. And then I get served another video, and this is the one that really got me. I didn't even watch the video. I just looked at the thumbnail and immediately I was like, I'm quitting. It was a video of a guy who didn't smoke weed for 365 days. And on the left, it said day 1, lazy and depressed. And on the right, day 365, and it said motivated and happy. And the word motivated is what struck me. For the last couple years, I felt like I had all these ideas and plans and daydreams. I was in this constant state of creation, but could not execute. So that was the moment. Every argument that I had just melted. So I quit, but this time I set myself a timer. 1 year. No more like, oh, let me just like go a few weeks just to prove I can. No. 1 year. And here's the result. So weed actually changes your brain chemistry. It does have physiological, psychological effects on your brain. I needed to reset my brain, rewire my brain. And within a few weeks, I did notice changes already, but that's the point where normally I would start smoking again because I'd be like, oh, I feel a lot better. Like, I can smoke again. But I didn't, and each week got clearer. Hey, I'm in the middle of filming. What are you doing tomorrow? I'm leaving for LA tonight. Okay, I'll go, Monica. Okay, bye. Bye. I was able to make these major life decisions that I'd been putting off, like moving across the country. I needed to make that decision in a clear and sober-minded place. I was able to actually organize my life and get things that I've been putting off done. That list would be too long and uninteresting, but just know it was good. The anxiety that I was convinced the weed was fixing, which obviously it wasn't because I still had anxiety and thus I was smoking more weed, actually went away, shockingly. Depression lifted too, and most importantly, I just feel peace. I am not dependent on anything except the Lord our God, amen. I stepped away from social media at the same time, which is actually my real addiction. Weed, not so much. Wasn't really an addiction. Social media, real addiction. And we'll talk about it. But yeah, I stopped wasting a lot of time on there and also in a lot of other ways. And I'm happy and motivated. It's like I'm the me that I was before I had to tuck her away and hide her from the world. My experience, it was actually pretty easy. I think setting that firm deadline, in fact, no, actually I'm gonna say I know that setting that firm deadline is what really got me there. I'm a very goal-oriented person and very competitive with myself. So when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. So once it was off the table as an option for something for me to do, I just didn't really even think about it as much. And that's not to say there weren't challenges at first, especially. There is that physical and psychological withdrawal, anxiety being one of the main ones. But those withdrawals go away relatively quickly, not the physical anxiety that you're feeling from the drug literally like leaving your body, but when the stress gets hard, like those moments when you'd normally go and smoke immediately to calm down, those moments will never go away. Right? Like there's always going to be stress. It's just about not needing to smoke to get through them. Like, I'll tell you what, dude, when I moved, like the first couple months were so hard and so stressful, and I was having a tough time. I had a massive breakdown today. It's not okay that I needed to be high to not be a bitch. So I really needed to work on that. The biggest downside for me still at this moment is that I haven't been able to unlock that creative piece. Whereas a lot of things in life got really a lot easier to execute, art is more challenging for me. I'm just such a manic, high energy type A person that I've never been able to just like sit down and enjoy the creative process. When it comes to visual art anyways, songwriting, have to be sober. It's weird, but there was truly nothing I loved more than smoking and painting. Literally watching paint dry, waiting to see what images come forward, really rolling with the mistakes and leaning into them, letting my intuition take over. Dancing is also a lot harder and unnatural for me. Journaling was a lot more productive and intuitive. What it really comes down to is overthinking and not allowing myself to sit still. I have a lot of trouble just sitting still and focusing on one project for any prolonged period of time. But when I would smoke, I could sit for days at a time and just focus on that one thing. So I do still see the benefits. Like I'm not gonna be one of those people who's just like, weed has no benefits and drugs are bad. Oh my gosh, I should have worn my Dare t-shirt. No, I'm glad I didn't. That would have been too much. I feel like it really helped a lot with ADHD, OCD, PTSD, and just other mental blocks. I feel like it definitely helps you connect to a different place. And I also don't know that it's wrong or bad. Like, it is medicinal. I would rather smoke weed than take a lot of pharmaceutical drugs. Weed is demonized in a way that a lot of these pharmaceuticals are just not. So I'm not even saying like this is a terrible thing. I'm saying that I had a problem. And if you're somebody who also feels like you might have a problem, then you probably do. So final thoughts. I am really very proud of myself. This is the best thing that I've ever done for myself. And if, like I said, if this is something that you're going back and forth with, I would highly recommend just committing to 1 year. If you can't do it, or if you're resisting a lot, or if you're constantly having these circular arguments with yourself, or you're always looking for some type of external validation of somebody to tell you that it's not a problem, your problem might be a lot bigger than you think. Just give yourself a chance and see who you are when you're sober-minded. All this to say, I don't know that I'll never smoke again. I told myself 1 year and didn't know if at the end of the 1 year, if it's something that I would pick up again, but I know that I don't need to. And that's a lot more than I could have said 1 year ago.